Welcome, everyone, to Liberal 12th Man Show. We are back, and we are definitely ready to rock and roll because this is going to be. Let me change up the microphone here. This is going to be a important game. Important game. Newcastle is a team looking for revenge. I know we had a very heated matchup with them at their home, and now we welcome them to our home. So we're going to definitely be engaged and be ready to rock and roll against this one because it's going to be a big one. So shout out to all that are joining us. Oh man, after 5 Premier League games without a win, there's no dressing this one up anymore. Liverpool have to respond, and they have to respond now. We've had a bunch of different occurrences where players or coaches or fans have all said that same phrase: "We're back," or "We turned the corner," but yet unfortunately, that hasn't been always held to be true. And this is where we really have to figure out what is going to be the next step for this club. So 4 straight draws, definitely a very big, damaging, I would call it, defeat at Bournemouth. Suddenly, this league season has gone from bumpy transition to pressure territory, if you want to call it that, for Arne Slot and our Reds. So Liverpool coming to the weekend sitting 6, having been leapfrogged by Manchester United and Chelsea, both looking like taking advantage of their new manager bounce. And that's not a sentence any of us expected to be saying at this stage, especially with Manchester United. But yes, Europe has been kind to us, to say the least. We all have our own theories. Everyone knows mine. I've said it about 9,000 times, so I won't say it again for this episode at least. So Marseille away, handled. Qarabağ and Anfield, not only handled, but annihilated. But let's be honest with ourselves. The Champions League has been a refuge. It has definitely been a release valve for a lot of us for the things going on in the Premier League. And that's why, if anything, that's where the questions are still to be answered. We've seen success in Champions League, but not in Premier League. And Saturday doesn't offer any bit of relief or comfort because it offers Newcastle United at Anfield, who are fast, who are physical, who are direct with their play, and who can be ruthless in transition. And they have, like I said, a chip on their shoulder to try to beat their, I guess you call us their nemesis in a sense, since we often are the victors in our matchups. We all remember the reverse fixture. It gave us certainly chaos. It gave us a lot of physical interactions, but it also gave us a 3-2 win. There were fireworks, obviously, as I thought it was possibly the debut arrival of a future hero in Rio and Gamoa. Slot will be hoping for another win, I'm sure, like all of us, but this time Liverpool need more than drama. We need control. We need authority. We need I would like to see a performance in the Premier League, to be honest with you. A performance that tells the league we're going to make a very concerted effort at getting back, not in this title race. That is pretty much far gone, but at least in this top 4, if not top 5 race. And maybe answer questions for ourselves, bring out some real insight as to who we are and who we think we will progressively become as time goes on in this season, because this season still has teeth, and we need to definitely get into it as best we can. So tonight I'm going to break it all down, the pressure of what this game means, the lineup calls. I'm going to talk about the battles that will decide this game. I'm also going to talk about who needs to step up when the noise is loudest. And because Europe was the escape, we're back off a holiday, if you want to call it that. and home in England. Now this becomes the test. So shout out to those joining me right now. Shout out for those joining me right now. Also, let me see this. But anyways, let's get into this. No doubt. Shout out to Hylor joining us, definitely making it known that he is in the building. Big up to you. Evening as well. I'm gonna get right into this, and this is talk about Europe, because let's do a quick revision of what just happened. Brilliant night for Liverpool in midweek, 6-0 demolition of Qarabağ at Anfield. Loads to enjoy. Different, lots of different goals to break down. Goals were flying in left, right, and center. Youngsters getting minutes, which is fantastic to see. Certainly, and hopefully, confidence has been restored to this team to understand that they are here to make a difference. But now the Premier League is back, and again, like I said earlier, it's not going to be a gentle ride because Newcastle at Anfield, there is definitely going to be a lot of bumps and bruises going left and right on this game. So I would say this game feels big, not just because of the opponent, but because of where Liverpool are physically and structurally right now. And I'll just jump right into it. I'm going to break down what the press conference got to speak on, a lot of different things that were brought to light. The coach brought up a lot of different storylines at least, about different players, whether it's youth academy players or even current players or even players on loan, injured players obviously as well. So the Jeremy Frimpong injury update is the first, though. That's something that we have to talk about because that's a player that was starting to show form, starting to show a little bit of real vigor on the pitch. And I'll start with this. The obvious place with Jeremy Frimpong, the only real downside to that Qarabağ game was seeing him pull up and come off early. I mean, it was the 4th minute of the game. You don't pull up in the 4th minute if it's not something that needs serious attention. So another muscle injury, excuse me. And when you see that happen, look, especially for this player, he's trying to make his run at it. He's a delightful player too, by the way, in the sense of I like his energy, I like his charisma and the likes. And it's a shame that he's going through what he's going through. But the manager confirmed Frimpong will definitely miss Newcastle and will be out for a few weeks. That's good to hear under this pretense. Originally, it was said that originally I had a report saying that it was a grade 3 groin tear, which would have been months, not weeks, months. So hopefully, this new update from our coach says something positive. I mean, there is a small positive in that it doesn't appear to be as bad as initially feared. It looks like it's a muscle pull, by the way, not a tear, which makes a difference. That matters. But because Frimpong's been in good form, and despite arriving at Liverpool with a strong injury record, he's had a frustration of setbacks since joining our team. That's something that, again, is difficult to process. Losing him again is a blow, but when the initial fear was much worse, you take the positives where you can, and that is a positive to hear that he's going to be back in a few weeks. Shout out to everyone joining us. I see people are starting to join in. See the number starting to rise as I from the corner of my eye here. So shout out to everyone joining us. Shout out to all the Reds, especially. Special love for all of you. Shout out to those rivals. We see you, and appreciate the mutual respect, and shout out to the neutrals as well, of course. Definitely appreciate everyone joining us today. I got you, Sheba. I see your comment. I'm not going to repeat it, but I see your comment. Um, that's where we're at right now. I know that it's not exactly the best of news. It would be nice to hear that, Frimpong's going to be available and the likes and such, but let's make sure that the young man gets himself back into readiness. The Denzel Dumfries, I didn't have something in my I have a little football talk, like, random football talk where I talk about some transfers, maybe some club news and likes. Denzel Dumfries wasn't a part of it. And there was Jacquet, but if we were to get Jacquet, that'd be fantastic. I'd be definitely happy to hear that. Jacquet seems to be a promising player, promising enough that I just picked him up on my football manager, football FM26. I just picked him up as a player, but Denzel Dumfries, different story. I don't believe that we're going to go in for a right back. I know our situation is serious. I know we have a coach that doesn't necessarily rate Ramsey as our right back choice. I know some of you out there don't rate having Robbo as a possible fill-in as a right back. But again, I am under different pretenses or different mindsets in thinking that I don't mind Robbo playing. If anything, I think it would be a blessing to see Robbo play because it puts a different dynamic on the right side by having a left-footed player play your right back spot, and also being that right back or a left winger isn't able to cut in with his right foot. And also, it also makes a difference when you put a player that has Robbo's football IQ in that spot. We might also just see our coach go with the direction of playing with Damis Abasalai, Sobal Snolai there, or either Curtis Jones, or maybe even Endo. I don't want to see any of those three choices necessarily be the case, but we shall see what happens with those decisions. Plus, we might be getting back Gomez. I do have an update on him as well. I'll save that for a bit. Now, some good news, and I know we all definitely would like to have some good news. And yes, Chelsea does seem like more likely his destination, but we'll see if that is for Jacquet at least. But Liverpool needs some good news, and some good news could be that Konate is back in training and will be available for Newcastle. So that at least provides us with some relief in thinking, oh, we're going to have to play Gravenberch, or we're going to have to play Endo in the center, right center half position. He's been absent, obviously, following the tragic death of his father. Rest in peace to his father, and thoughts go out to his family. And that's first and foremost. But from a football perspective, his return, again, is massive. Liverpool are short at center back right now. Konate is fit, mentally ready, hopefully able to start, and probably has to be honest with you. He probably has to start. Not just because of his quality, but because of the lack of alternatives. This defense needs stability, physicality. We need leadership back there. Konate gives you all three. And if there's ever any time that we need Konate, it's now, because he is a massive upgrade when it comes to our center back options, considering we don't have any. So I spoke about Joe Gomez and the defensive depth that we're running on. Big up to shout out to Dara, TGIF, hopefully for you. One of the reasons Liverpool are so thin at the back is because Joe Gomez is not available. He's been out since the Bournemouth game when he clashed with Ali, trying to prevent a goal, and unfortunately ended up being a double setback because We ended up getting the player injured, and we also got scored on. But the manager confirmed Gomez is not going to be back for Newcastle. There's still some swelling that needs to settle, but I'm glad to hear that it's not a knee injury or something like that, which was originally reported. And this is important because there is hope he'll be back for our next game after this, which is Manchester City, and it's just something that we'll most likely need him for. So hopefully he'll be ready. He'll be fit. Whether it's at center half, which I doubt, but because if Ibu's available, I think we'll see Ibu in that role. But hopefully we can provide he can provide some relief for us as a right back. We all know that we all value, or at least I value him as a right back. So it'd be nice to see him join the club to give us some contribution in that regard. Because just having Gomez back in the squad would be huge. Right now the bench looks light, you know how that is, and going forward we need defensive players like Gomez in the lineup. And I get it. We can all go back and forth about whether we believe operating with the little bit of margin of error that we have is exactly the way forward with this club. But that's a conversation to have. You can bring it up in the chat, but we will certainly save it for a little bit later because I just want to get through all these portions about what was said in the presser. Another boost. Curtis Jones is back. Cujo, yes, Cujo is back. And why it's big is because he's coming not off of injury, but off of illness. He missed the last game through illness, but he recovered. He's back in training. He's available. I think that's huge because he's another option. You could have it right back if that is something that is necessary. But he's also he creates a real selection question. Do you bring him straight back in? Does he come in ahead of McAllister? Some people might have him come in ahead of McAllister, but McAllister did score twice against Qarabağ. He's hasn't been flawless this season, but again, maybe he's got his swagger back. That's a real big question. Does he come back maybe as a right back? I know people don't want to necessarily hear that. Or do you keep him in the midfield as is, especially if Konate's return allows some potential reshuffling elsewhere? For me in games like this, big games especially, having a player like Cujo is massive. I rate Cujo. I think he's a good player. I think he's a phenomenal player for our locker room and for the city of Liverpool, especially. It does mean something to have a player that connects with the city, that is a part of the city, be a part of the club. And I'm happy to see him rejoin his lads on the pitch. So I'm excited. We all know he brings control, he brings composure, and he's going to have to bring his A game against a Newcastle midfield that is arguably one of the best midfields in the Premier League. So I'm going to also speak about a player that I have certainly been missing. And not because he's had such great end product or contributions or the like. He left on his last contribution for the team, and that was a goal. But we finally got a small update on Alexander Isak. He's out. He's now out of the boot. That's big. The manager even double-checked the wording with the press officer, to make sure that he was right about what he had to say, which is always good to see that Arne's checking with the press officer with the wording and how he's going about presenting himself, because we all know that we have taken up some issues with some of his approaches, but he's not back on the pitch yet doing real work, meaning Alexander Isak. The original talk was that March was the realistic target. We're now at the end of January, obviously. So if he gets back on the grass in February, that time feels achievable. I'm hoping that he will. I'm very, very bullish on getting a two-striker presence for this club. I think that's the way forward, in my opinion. And what a boost that would be if we were to have a player like Isak. It'd be massive, massive. I do have a Bashetic update, so I'll give you that in a second, Dara. But like I said, TK has been doing a solid job covering, if you want to call it that. I think they both deserve to start. So I don't necessarily want to say he's covering for Isak, but he's certainly picking up the slack left by Isak not being available, whether it's if it's as our sole center forward or if it's as a tandem up top. Both available would be transformative in this club, I think, and that's something that I wanted to make sure I got involved in the conversation. Next, I did want to mention the fact that this coach spoke about young players. There were also some very interesting updates on them. A player that we will need as certainly a backup, maybe a player for the future of this club, if he can get his injury, injury, I want to say injury streak in a sense. He's had a bunch of different injuries that have been definitely, disappointing to see. But Jayden Danns is still not in training and continues to suffer setbacks. But the manager was glowing about his attitude and his mindset. I'm very bullish on Jayden Danns. I think that there's a possible future for this player if he can get himself fit and get himself present to stay fit. He went as far as to say Danns would definitely have been involved recently if he was fit. So that's promising to hear that he's not someone that we look to just loan out or someone that isn't exactly in the plans for the future, especially with Isak absent. This is the most opportune time for him to make a dent in being a future Liverpool Red or Liverpool Red that we rely on. But the level of praise matters simply because Slot is usually quite reserved when it comes to young players. He doesn't like to hype them up. He doesn't like to, shower them with praise. We've had, even when we had Rio doing well, he was quick to, bring it down, bring down the amount of accolades that were getting laid at his feet. But it definitely suggests he really rates Dan. You could tell us in the chat. Please tell me, at least in the chat, say us. It's just me solo here for today. You could tell me, do you rate Jayden Danns? Do you think that he is a player that you are looking forward to seeing play for our club? And is there a pathway for him to do so? Do you think that, do you really think that he could be a player that, ends up being a future starter, if not at least a squad player for us? Be really, really interesting to hear how you think about it, because he's only 20. Despite the injuries, we're all hoping for a real future for him. And speaking of young lads, and Dara asked about Bashetic. Stefan Bashetic was updated as to he is still struggling with his fitness. It's unfortunate. It is certainly fortunate for his fitness. And he keeps getting close to training, then suffering another setback. Even when he does return, the manager made it clear expectations for Stefan Bashetic have to be measured. They have to be managed. They have to be kept in check. Simply because a player like that that's had a bunch of setbacks, you don't want to rush him back and say, "Oh, okay, you're finally through the storm, full steam ahead," and have him have a major setback. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we get from Bishetic. It's a shame that he's not available because I think he would again be another player that we would hopefully be able to utilize in this time of need for the window for our lack of movement in the window. And speaking of the January window, big up Lee Wizkid. No worries. Sit back and enjoy the conversation for sure. I think the January window did come up. You got the usual answer from Arne Slot, and that is if there's a player who can help and the deal makes sense, Liverpool will consider it. That doesn't rule anything out, but let's be honest, it still feels unlikely. I think that like I spoke on the Dumfries. Dumfries doesn't make sense to me personally, as he is certainly older in the sense of I think he's like 28 or something like that. He's like closing in on 30 years old, and not only is he closing in on 30 years old, he's also a player that is he's also a player that is a foreign-born player. So it would mean that we'd have to free up space for him because he's not a homegrown player. So that makes a difference. It certainly makes a difference. So that's why it doesn't really make sense for me to see that happen. There are some other players that are being thrown around, maybe not for the January window, but certainly for the summer. I'll get into that in a bit. But let's be honest. Like I said, it still feels unlikely. Personally, I'd love to see a center half who could cover right back for us, or could cover right or left back. That'd be fantastic. Very similar profile, basically, that you get from Gomez. I would love to be able to see that. But, Gomez is a unique unicorn in itself, in that not many players like him are very ample out there in the market, much less available in the market. So I don't expect it to happen. What did stand out was the conversation around Harvey Elliott. Shout out to Harvey Elliott as well. The manager said he was pleased to see him get minutes for Aston Villa, but reminded everyone he's still a Villa player. I need to say to our coach, kill that noise. I think he should have probably turned to the press officer and properly worded his comment, because the player is on loan. When you loan a player, the player is certainly whatever team he's playing for. He is there to help that team, but he is still our player. That's how I look at it, at least until the deal is set, where until he is officially a player for Villa, permanent player for Villa. Don't regard him as, in my opinion, a Villa player. But that's, again, I'm not trying to poke. I mean, maybe that's poking the bear too much a little bit. Because I don't want to see Elliott lose a year of his career. He's a fantastic lad. I think that he is a player that has given everything to Liverpool. He's a player that loves the badge, and that's why I said that earlier comment about him being a Liverpool player. And he is someone that I hope gets treated right by Villa. He's now 6 appearances. I believe it's 10 that he needs to make the permanent switch. So I hope that he can get the 4 for that to be permanent. Or I wouldn't be against seeing him return to Liverpool, to be honest with you. Some might. I know some don't like ringlets, but I personally do think that Elliott is a a fantastic player. He also spoke about youth pathways. And what I mean by that is there was some positivity around youth involvement. Slot spoke about being pleased he could use players like Trey Neone or players like Rio Nkamoa, and even Nalo, against Qarabağ. I thought it was good that Nalo got a run simply because Nalo's last two appearances have not been good ones. I'm glad to see he got one that he can finally be proud of, and in a win for us. But Liverpool put themselves in a position to really need to require some service from our youth. Our coach was particularly interested in making comments on Neone. And what he said was he's getting closer to be trusted in more balanced game states, not just late cameos. That is big. I think that Trey Neone, before Rio, Trey Neone was the golden child for our club, for the players that we would think would be included in our starting lineups, or at least in our starting in our rosters or on our team sheets. And I'm happy to hear it. I rate Trey Neone, another player again that I think should and deservedly could get some minutes. But you saw that in the build-up in the sixth goal. He was calm, he was confident, he got a quality pass in. The manager's been criticized for his use of young players, and I think rightfully so. I saw a very, very taxing comment being placed on our coach by the owner of Petersborough, who he was on the Sky Sports show. And his points that he brought up were pretty spot on. I agree with a lot of the points he brought up. There's a lot of those guys that we got goals from in that game. It was fantastic to see them get goals. But, we need them to be not only healthy, but we need them to be rested for this next 3-game spell against 3 very top-tier clubs that we were going to face off against. So I'm interested to see it. I'm interested to see if Liverpool can keep putting themselves in control of games. Maybe we'll see more of the pathway open up for these players again to be included in that conversation. All right. I know there was some talk about what our coach said from the game from yesterday's game, or excuse me, from Wednesday's game. And we could talk about that a little bit. Shout out to Jimmy, big up. And we could talk about that, but it's a question. It's a real question. And that is, he talked about the Champions League progress. He gave perspective, not complacency. That's what he's given us. He talked about finishing 3rd in the league phase and going straight into the Champions League 16. What jumps out immediately in perspective, at least for me, is that he framed it exactly how a modern coach should. And that is top 8 means you skip around, you avoid the chaos draws, and you protect your squad. But again, I didn't really speak about this yesterday, but I will speak about this today. He definitely deliberately grounded it by saying he reminded everyone that 2 years ago, Liverpool were in Europe, were in the Europa League, going out against Atalanta, who did eventually go on to win the Atalanta did go on to win the Europa League that year. So it's not like we went out to chop liver. Keep that in mind. But I don't know if that's accidental. I don't believe it was. Slot was basically saying progress matters, but don't forget where this rebuild started. That's what I'm trying to spin this, I guess. I don't know. It's difficult sometimes when you hear our coach speak and do these digs against the fan base, or what seems to be digs against the fan base. It hurts to see that. Um, um, he says that we're hungry for more last season, and we'll be in it again with the expectation setting, no celebration, no relief, just hunger to do better than last year. And that's at least promising to hear. I mean, I'll do my best to be positive with these comments as best as possible, because some of the takes I originally had were not pretty, all the same. He did talk about both of the opposition and our third, the action from set pieces and corners and being able to control the box. Pause. But this is where Slot really got interested in making his point known, and that was he talked about being better in both boxes. He said he's not praising flair, he's praising control. He said something crucial, I thought, though, and that is there were no 6, 7, or 8 minute stretches where the opposition were better than Liverpool. Fantastic. Fantastic. Because in recent league games, those lapses, those small windows are exactly where Liverpool have been punished. Shout out to Cedric. Big up, Cedric. Good to see you, my brother. He opens up, I guess, a Pandora's box in that Newcastle will be stronger than Qarabağ. And that's honesty. The standard he's setting is no minutes of surrender. And he talks about set pieces. And this is quietly massive, I guess you could say. And that is Slot straight up says set pieces have been vital in the Champions League run. 1-0 from a set piece, and then 1-3-0 from a set piece. That changes games, that changes psychology, it turns tension into dominance. I'm happy to hear that we're looking at addressing the questions, not just kicking the can down the road, not making excuses for performances against corner kicks or for our offensive corner kicks. Let's keep it 100. We need to be better at corners, set pieces, and the likes. All of that needs to be above the standards that we're setting currently. I think it's like over 130 some odd. There's more than 130 corner kicks, and we've scored twice. That cannot be the case. He also spoke about the 92nd minute sprint or mentality over tactics, if you want to call it that. And the most revealing moment, I thought, of the press conference yesterday, or at least the press conference after the game. And it was about the 92nd minute where we were already up, up 3-0, or up more than 3-0 actually. But Federico Chiesa, his number 9, our number 9, our Italian. It was sprinted back into the 6-yard box to defend. That's not about shape. That's about buy-in and the likes. I agree with you, Jimmy, too, by the way. It is our reaction to the second ball. That's so poor. It's something that I think is a mentality thing. It's a mental block in the sense of, we're the first to the ball, but rather than react and be reactive or progressive with our approach, we're just happy to get to the ball. It's like, you see someone make contact with the first, and you yourself allow for yourself to take a breath. No. You have to be prepared to anticipate where that ball is going to be going and be the first to it and start our counter, something that we don't really do too often. in my opinion. But something that we do need to go and do more of. Um, if we improve in both boxes, we become very hard to play against. He Slot tried to bring up about the warning that doing it once isn't enough, and that's important. That's very important. Some people think that, you just because you do it once, that's enough work, and you can call it in. No, you've got to do it each and every time the opportunity is there for you to handle your business. So that's massively important. He talked about injuries as well. When asked about our emergency or loan options, Slot gave us the clearest window into Liverpool's recruitment philosophy, and that is that he's flat out said they don't build squads with 4 right backs and 12 midfielders. I was making a point with backstage, at least in the conversation, and addressing some of the conversation online through X or Twitter. And that is, I understand that people want us to go out for a right back. I understand that there are some that think that we might need to replace our current left back situation. At one point, Robbo was deemed to be out the door, and that would have meant that we would have either had to take Simicast back or bring another player in. Everyone knows that I'm bullish on bringing in a Robinson if that was the case. But currently, if we're going to have Robbo as our captain or our vice captain, excuse me, and we're going to have him as a left back option, that is not a bad option at all. It's one that I prefer, actually. I'm going to start Cedric's question right there. But what I brought up, though, was the fact that, the Dumfries talk, or I think there was a couple other players that were thrown out there, along with, again, even the Robinson talk, or even us going and bringing back Simicast. The Livramento, those talks and likes, or the other Newcastle player that is got a lot of people's attention at left back. I don't think that we are going to go in for a player like that, because one, setting up a loan player would mean that normally when you set up a loan player, you want it like it's either a youth player or it's a player that is going to have a bona fide pathway towards being a fixture on this team. That's not the case. Dumfries is not going to be our right back option going forward, especially whenever Bradley, or especially when Frimpong get healthy. He wouldn't be that case. And then all of a sudden you have 3 right backs. You have 4 right backs technically, because you have Ramsey as a right back as well. That's just not happening. Then you also factor in that if you're going to keep a player or go out and get a transfer for a player, now all of a sudden, you definitely have a issue, because you got to move another player on. So that's not going to be the case, I think. Our coach talked about young players developing, which is a great thing to hear. I want to hear more about that. I think we have one of the best youth academies in the league. Utilize it, make moves, bring these players forward the way that Klopp did, in that, even though Klopp might not necessarily want to bring some of the number of youth academy players that he brought forward, he might not have wanted to do that. However, he did because of similar circumstances. So I think he leaves the door slightly open. If the right player is available, affordable, and helps the future, then yes, hit it up. But there's no panic buying here. And that's deliberate with what I would like to say. There's no panic buying here. And I wanted to make sure that people understand that that's the case. Two more points that he brought up. He brought up obviously the injury and injuries, and he said about uh, when asked about emergency or loan options, he said all the different things that he said the about the players that he thinks would be options for us to bring in. But he did mention about Endo at right back, and Slot honestly continues with bringing a certain breath of fresh air when it comes to being honest, some to his detriment, by the way. But I know Curtis Jones is back. We spoke on that. Joe Gomez is back in next game, not this game, and Konate is back as well. It's huge. And then Wataru Endo at right back is an option for us at least. Slot praised him, which rightfully so. Concentrated on making a defensive effort dependable. But he's also honest about what Endo doesn't give you, and that is he doesn't give you overlaps. He doesn't do 1v1s. He's not explosive as someone going forward. I think that was a little bit of a backhanded compliment. Again, I don't like coach throwing players under the bus. I understand that every player has weaknesses. Every player has things that are not necessarily or deficits in their game. However, when you're talking about your own players, especially your own players, pointing them out does nothing. You gain nothing, in my opinion. And again, I just it's another case. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds because I don't want to necessarily mess up my TGIF vibe. But it is what it is. It worked against Qarabağ. Will it work in the future? I think it could possibly, but then again, it just means that you adapt. I think it just means you adapt your structure and you adapt your approach towards the game. If you're going to have a more defensive-minded right back, that's all it is. If you have a more defensive-minded right back, what he gives you in positives or bonuses in defense, make use of that. Maybe you can, by knowing that you can have a player that is going to be, able to be more of a defensive juggernaut or staple, then maybe that means that you can go forward with Kirkez or Robbo on the left. Maybe you can. Maybe it means you can invert a player, or maybe it means that you could play with you playing with a back three in essence isn't out of the question. I think that's important, very very important. Slot also made a comment about Jeremy Frimpong, and I thought that this was an interesting take because I guess he's trying to vindicate or validate his choices, but vindicate himself in these comments. And he said he linked the muscle injuries to overload for the player, explains why he took Hugo and Florian off early in the game. He said it was load management. Adaptation to English intensity is what he's calling it. In essence, it's a coach learning on the job, basically, is what he's doing. Because his rotation and lack of was very, very detrimental to us, I think, last season in some of the other competitions that we were involved in. And it was something that was called out critically and constructively criticized by some of us in the content creator world. Let's see. There was a comment I wanted to get into before I get into before I go into let me see about this one thing. I'm gonna look and see if I can't find where Fabrizio said it. Da, 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 da. Let me see where Fabrizio said it. Give me 1 second. Fabrizio Romano was apparently saying something about. All right. Fabrizio Romano is saying Inter are in direct club-to-club talks with Liverpool for Curtis Jones on a loan deal with a buy option clause. Bun that. Negotiations ongoing, but linked to David Fratesi exit, with NFFC waiting for an answer. Inter and Liverpool discussing it today. And I would say, peace, see you later. When that is, when hearing that's from Fabrizio Romano, by the way. But I would say to that, because I am not about moving the Scouser in our team on to Inter with a try and if you like it, buy option. I don't want to see Curtis Jones, and this is just my opinion. I don't want to see Curtis Jones. I don't want to see Curtis Jones be faced with a evaluation that could see him in the same settings as Elliott. The whole buy option is not something that you want to hear be connected to a player, because you're then saying, okay, cool, you can utilize one of our players that is essential to our team, someone that we do utilize, and if you like what you're seeing, then yeah, you get to keep it. But if you don't, we will take him back. I think that sends the wrong message to the player. I also think that sends the player having Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott are definitely close friends. I'm certain that Curtis Jones does not want to find himself in a position where maybe he falls out of favor with the coach, or maybe the team runs into some financial snafu that doesn't allow for them to move the deal further. So I'm not interested in that at all. You might be out there in the chat. If you are, you can definitely put that in the chat. If you are, you can put it in the comment section to be even better. But again, I'm not giving that any real massive attention to my orbit. But I did say I had some transfer talk, or even some European football situations. And the first I did want to say is there has been report via Sky Germany that Bayern Munich are waiting on Upamecano to sign a contract extension through 2030 or even 2031, including a 2027 release clause that would be part of that deal. Wages of about 20 million euros gross per year would be what he would get. I don't know if that's Sky Germany telling us that Upamecano is waiting for a team like Liverpool or even Real Madrid to make a real push or make a real interest in his services. I'm not really bullish on Upamecano as much as I was originally before we ever got Konate. Originally I will admit that I was very much, just as long before I even started the channel. But I'm transparent with my opinions and the likes. I thought Upamecano was possibly the better player. He was certainly more coveted player between the two, but I think that Konate has surpassed him in ability so far. So Sky Germany has said it. The Liverpool are interested. I guess that's one to watch. I don't think it is something that interests me, to be honest with you. I rather see us go for Bastoni or Schlotterbeck or even Van de Ven. I know people aren't really bullish on Van de Ven, but I'd rather see those choices be brought in if it meant it all going down. Big up Retro. How you doing? Big up Bonkers. What is good, my red? All right. There was a little bit of interesting noise that I saw, but I don't know if this is actually going to happen or not. This is something unrelated to Liverpool, but I'll just include it briefly. Roberto De Zerbi was reported to have handed in his resignation at Marseille for head coach. That would have certainly sent some ripples in the European market pond, but I don't know if it's the case. There's been conflicting reports about his status at Marseille. Multiple sources reporting that he submitted his resignation following a Champions League exit, but then again, Yahoo Sports Canada reported that De Zerbi himself confirmed he has not formally resigned, and stated he is still their manager and has the strength to stay as such. So I know that some people thought that he could be a possible replacement for Arne Slot if we were to move on from Arne. I don't really rate him like that. I wasn't for bringing him in before we got Arne Slot. Honestly, I was much more so pro Alonso than I was anything dealing with De Zerbi. But that is a situation. We'll see how it develops. There is a player. I don't know if there was a player. If I had a panel, I probably would ask the panel this question. But there is, I think it's pronounced Brayhan Gruda. He's a player for Brighton. I'm gonna pull up his this player for you again. There is a player named Brayhan Gruda who is putting it out there. It was very, very becoming to see because this player was putting it out there that he would be over the moon. He's a German player, by the way, plays midfield and plays right wing. He's 21 years old, very, very young. But he was putting it out there that his dream is to obviously play Champions League football. He knows that dream's pathway is not foreseeably possible being at Brighton. So he explicitly named Liverpool as one of the clubs he wants to play for. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very interesting, and I thought maybe some of you out there had some insight on the player. I don't watch too much of Brighton, so I don't really necessarily know if the player is necessarily a incredible player, but he is a player that was a high. I mean, they spent a good amount of money for him to get him to Brighton, considering Brighton don't necessarily spend too much money when it comes to players being brought in, and it was a little bit under. It was like 100,000 under, 25 million pounds, but let's just call it 25 million pounds for easy stakes, rounding up at least. He was a Mainz player originally in the Bundesliga. So it is something. It was interesting to see. I don't know if anyone knows anything about that. If anyone has some insight on the player, please do share it with us in the comments or share it with us in the chat. It'd be fantastic. Shout out to Retro. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. Those kind words. Let's see. Julian, I hope the same. I don't think that a team that is struggling to keep active, viably active players in its team would be giving away loan deals for our core players. And I would go as far as to say Jones is one of our core players in that when I say core, I mean I include that with the squad as well. So if you're a player that tends to get fixtures under your belt by being even a sub, I still think that means you're a core player. You're someone that we utilize for your services, if not as a starter, but certainly as a squad player. There is some hot goss, as we call it here on this side of the pond, hot goss. That's meaning like gossip, basically. But anyway, big up, Eric, by the way, big up. There was some talk out there that really got me immensely intrigued. And this is something that I saw, and I would love to see it happen because apparently the team is making another pivot, going a different direction. Originally, they were going one way. Now they're going a different direction in who they rate as being their DM. But if we're going to talk long-term squad building, let's talk about it for a second. Before we get into the whole preview portion of the main topic of the show. And that is midfield control. I know that some of you out there don't necessarily rate this player right here as a viable DM. I understand that. I can if it's your player profile that he doesn't fit, I can understand it, incredibly understand that. However, I think that I personally have been on. I was asking for Gravenberch to be our DM before he was our DM. So seeing Slot make that transition for the player, I was happy to see it. There were certain traits that he had that were very similar to what I saw from Matip, that I was like, oh, let's get me some of that for our DM. But again, if we're going to future-proof Liverpool for the next cycle, there is a name in my head that I have thrown out there, a player that normally, if I'm playing FIFA online, or not online, but playing FIFA, or if I'm playing, the video games, and I get to be sporting director, he's one of the players that I do actively try to make an effort to bring into the team. And that is Eduardo Camavinga. As of January of this year, this January window, Liverpool are actively exploring what would be a seriously ambitious move for Camavinga. Currently in Real Madrid, we all know that that's going to take money, and it's going to be a massive, massive deal. But let's be clear. This has to be, this is not cheap flirtation, okay? There are reports suggesting that Liverpool would be willing to go just a little north of 80 million euros to bring in the player for the 26-27 season. Now, Madrid, unsurprisingly, are resisting the pursuit of it now, or at least verbally. Their stance has reportedly been no. They view Camavinga possibly as a long-term pillar, and his contract doesn't run out until 2029. However, that doesn't mean that we can't have interest in a player that I think could provide not only depth to our team, but it could actually, in my opinion, create a fantastic pivot for us at DM. I think, again, I'm not looking to replace. This is just my perspective. You can argue with me as you like. Um, but what it does say to me is if we were to bring in a Camavinga as a defensive midfielder, he also has the ability to play as an advanced central midfielder. He could even play as a left back when needed, by the way. And that's why I think it could be a top tier solution for a team that definitely needs to advance some of these positions that we have been long interested in revamping or at least fortifying, but have unfortunately not been able to do so. Endo is coming to the end of his term of his contract with us. And Endo was never really the future of of Liverpool at the DM spot beyond the 2-3 years that he's been with the club. So for me, I think what matters is if we were to able to get the player, it would mean that we could have a pivot of Camavinga and Gravenberg to very we could then it would free up Szoboszlai so he could play further advanced in our midfield. I think that it would be a fantastic. I think that could be one of the most dynamic duos in the DM role if we were able to see it. It could also allow for either or player to go forward, venture forward, and have the other cover. But Slot talks about smart squad building. He talks about load management. He's talking about carrying bloated numbers. This is the type of player that I think would answer a lot of questions for us. I think it would create competition for the role. Arsenal are also reportedly in the mix as well. I guess Liverpool's angle is obvious. We would bring control to the team, athleticism. He's press resistant. He's got tactical flexibility. He's all of that in one elite profile of a player. And that's why I'm calling this a little bit of some hot goss. I hope we can make that happen. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I certainly hope that we could put something together. I know Tchouaméni was originally a player that was reported to be out there as being on the outs. Apparently, Real Madrid have made a concerted effort to say that they're going to utilize Tchouaméni as a building block for their team going forward. I think if Liverpool are serious about sustaining Champions League contention, while obviously managing injuries, while managing the minutes for players, especially for our DM, and for we definitely have to make it all work. And by bringing in a player of the level of Camavinga. I know some out there have the ideas of or looking further towards bringing in a Adam Wharton in that role. I know that was being heavily talked about. It's somewhat cooled lately, but who knows? Who knows? Both players are fantastic players, but two very different profiles. I'd ask for a little chat participation in this because there are two very different philosophies of a DM, by the way. But who would be your pick if you had to pick between Wharton and Camavinga? Who do you think would provide and that's not to make it as a Gravenberg. I'm not suggesting it as a Gravenberg replacement. If anything, bringing in a player like Wharton, bringing a player like Camavinga, in my opinion, will allow for this team to make decisions on bringing Amaka or Amaka further forward, and especially Szoboszlai, but bringing Maka and Dom both in a more advanced role. I don't think we'll go back to having eights, but I'm just saying it would make them be positioned to go back to, maybe being a 10 for because we all know that Maka has played the 10 role for us on occasion this season. He has played it consistently for Brighton in the past, but let's see. Trudon saying news being leaked that Slot and Jones had a dressing room bust up. I hope that is I'm hoping it's fake news, Trudon. Maybe it was because of the on the field maybe it was because of the on the field bust up that we saw, in the sense of when we could see him visually questioning Slot's directions on the pitch when he had the opportunity to play. Not obviously in the last game, but the game before that. But we'll see. Big up, Michael. Wharton is your guy. Eric says Wharton for him as well. Okay. If you remember McAllister at Brighton, he was always on edge of opponent's box. Same as Wirtz with Leverkusen. I do remember that retro. I think that's Norm, by the way. He's changed up his name, I think, a little bit. But it was something I thought I would bring into the conversation. I do have some fun set up for us before we get to the 2-hour mark. We're currently at this. What is this? Rounding in on the 75th mark of the show. So I'll bring it in with my lineup prediction for Newcastle, and this is where the pressure really shows, I guess, because it's not easy to make the selections with the way our team has been trying to navigate some of the issues with fitness. This isn't just about who can play. This is about who you trust when the league form is exactly what it is. We're with all the draws and just as of late, the loss. Newcastle are going to be bringing pace, they're going to bring power, they're going to bring zero fear against us, and they're going to be looking to get a result. So here's how I think Arne Slot goes and why. I think at goalkeeper, we start with Ali. That's a no-brainer. I know I did hear on some Twitter spaces earlier about how, some guys were going on rants about Ali's availability and about how he's been suspect in getting injuries lately and the likes and blah, blah, blah. It's not what I do, because that is world-class talent in Ali. And we might need some world-class heroics from Ali against a very good Newcastle team. So I think he's sharp. I think he's rested. I think he's confident. And against Newcastle, he's just coming off of a shutout or a clean sheet. So against Newcastle side that thrives on transition, I'm hoping that we get a performance out of who I think is the best goalkeeper in the league. This is where it's going to get interesting. At right back, obviously Frimpong, Connor Bradley, both not available from injuries. Joe Gomez as well, not available because of injuries. You could argue that Wataru Endo could be there, but I'm not looking forward to seeing him go up against Gordon. You could ask for Dominic Szoboszlai as an emergency right back cover. Again, for me, against Gordon's pace and his direct running style, Szoboszlai makes a little bit more sense in this case. I don't think that this coach, unfortunately, has the gravitas or the cojones to pick Ramsey to be our right back, but we will see. Dom's quicker around the ground. Obviously, he's better at recovery situations. Also gives you a presence in being able to distribute the ball. That's why I have Damas Sabasli, unfortunately, once again, being called on to do our right back duties. Slot confirmed that Konate returned to training on Friday, which is great to hear. Given our lack of options at the position, Konate is going to be my right center half. We need his physicality. We need his recovery speed. We need his presence in duels, to be honest with you. Newcastle will certainly try to make a difference in their approach towards corners and set pieces. We know that they have a very tall team and a team that is good at set pieces. So we're going to need his presence out there. Next to him, no brainer. Virgil van Dijk. Let me just take a quick drink of water. Virgil van Dijk. We all know that he was not good at Bournemouth. Not trying to make any bit of excuses for him in that game. Midweek, he was back to being king of the defense, captain of our team, with the hat trick of assists against Qarabağ. Now he's preparing for what I would call a very difficult test, where he will have to take on Nick Waltemade or even Visa, both awkward, mobile forwards who give you clean reference points when it comes to dealing with them on the attack. But again, Virgil van Dijk, captain, no brainer. He gets to start, has to lead, organize our back line, keep us calm and composed. And hey, we move. Because left back, Robbo impressed midweek. I thought he was good. I thought he was solid. I thought it was fantastic to see that he's going to be staying at the club for the time being. I still think Slot goes with Kirkes in this game. I think he'll try to match the pace of Newcastle by putting in Kirkes. Kirkes was an unused sub on Wednesday. That suggests to me that he's going to be a part of the plan. Again, we all know Newcastle's width and energy, so you'll want to have Kirkes' legs to be able to counter that, if you want to call it that. At DM, we just spoke on Ryan Gravenberch as my DM. And I think that Gravenberch was asked to do a job at center back against Qarabağ, but fortunately for us, we won't have to rely on him for that service now that Konate's back. Sabasli probably, like I said, will be by the right side of, or be taking on the right back role, so he won't be beside Gravy in this case. However, I think at one point of the game, you might see Damas Sabasli move back into the midfield, but who knows? That's a good question as to whether that happens or not. Next to him in the pivot role, I have McAllister. Look, this season hasn't been vintage McAllister. I know McAllister is not everyone's cup of tea. He's far from he's far from the player that we were all over the moon with, or at least the majority of us were over the moon with last season. But confidence matters, I think, and a brace midweek might be exactly what he needs to rest mentally, at least. If Liverpool are going to control this game, they need McAllister to dictate the tempo. So I'm hoping that he steps forward with that. We all know that he's not a pushover, and I think we need his mentality, his fierceness, his physicality and his toughness in this game against a very, very formidable midfield. All right. I am going to say that this coach, unfortunately, will probably go with a 4-2-3-1. I probably should have said that earlier, but I'm saying it now. And that is something, again, I'm not a fan of with this team. However, with the choices and selections, maybe it's the only pathway forward. So Mohamed Salah will certainly get a start on the right wing. He had his first goal since November 1st. That's wild. Obviously it was a bending free kick into the goal. That was a fantastic. Well, hopefully it's something that gives him the confidence. Other than that, he was still a very actively involved player. I think he had 7 key passes in the game yesterday, or something around that line. I'd have to double check, but I think it's around that number. I'm sure someone will put me on blast if I got that wrong. But I'm hoping that Salah can not only hit a purple patch, but turn it into a enlonged run of form for him, because we need Salah. We definitely need our Egyptian king to be on the standards that we normally expect. Next to him, I have Florian Wirtz in that 10 role, 7 goal contributions in his last 10. Wirtz is quietly becoming a momentum maker for this team. He is someone that I have undoubtedly been bullish on since the day we got him. He's a player that I have never wavered away from, knowing that he will get his rhythm, he will get his footing with Liverpool and the Premier League especially. He will find his rhythm. And you can see the confidence growing. The movement's getting sharper. There's still some things he can improve on. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's the absolute finished article for the Premier League. But decision making is getting quicker. Another well taken goal midweek. I thought it was a fantastic, possibly goal of, some might argue was the goal of that game against Newcastle. We need him to find pockets. We need him to force the issue and put them on their back foot with his dribbling and his capabilities. On that left wing, people, I know some people think that these guys that Arne Slot has an adopted son, but Cody Gakpo. I think Cody Gakpo, who has been under fire, honestly, for good reason. His form has dipped. His play has become somewhat predictable to some. I don't think so, by the way. I'm going to go as far as to say that I think that if you have seen what Cody has been doing in recent games, it has been anything but predictable for Cody, because I've seen him take the ball, trying to go on the outer flank of players. I've seen him try to get crosses with his left foot. He's doing things that isn't just, hey, cut in and try to get off the shot, cut into to the right and try to get the shot off. But this is the kind of game where narratives flip, maybe at Anfield under pressure. We'll see if Cody can stand up and be Agent Cody for us. He has to answer the critics, or he's going to fuel further noise. I'm not hoping that's the case, but yeah. So I think Cody's going to get the shout. Finally, the one player that is arguably the most no-brainer, maybe to second to maybe Florian Wirtz or maybe even to Virgil, and that is Hugo Ekitike. He continues to impress. If he's fit, I know we talked about workload and the like and working about load management. Look, the goal and the assist midweek was phenomenal. I thought it was an incredibly well-taken goal. He's growing in confidence as being our main striker. Most importantly, he's thriving not only in Champions League, but also in the Premier League. He scored at St. James Park earlier this season. Caused Newcastle plenty of problems in that game. I think he'll do it again if given service. So I'm hoping his movement, his link-up play, his ability to stretch stretch center halves. Newcastle is not looking forward to seeing that TK, and I'm hoping that we make the most of it. So there you have my 11. That's my starting 11. If you have a different 11, if you have someone that you want to say is different than what I've just selected or said is going to be who I think Arne is going to play, it's not necessarily my 11, but who Arne is going to play, who I think Arne is going to play. Tell us in the comments. Please do. You guys putting comments in helps immensely. It gets, for some reason, the algorithm picks up on people making comments, and not just in the chat. I mean, in the comment section, it makes it the engagement pushes the algorithm to remind people, hey, there's some real conversation being started here. All right, time to pick your score predictions. Time to pick your score predictions. Pick up Lone Sheep. How are you doing? All right. All things considered, great to see us score 6 goals, but I don't see us having some goal palooza like that against Newcastle. I predict that we will have a match where it's not gonna be comfortable, it's not gonna be perfect, but a win that steadies the ship. I have us winning 2-1. We'll hit that deuce, and we'll hit the number 2 and do what we probably do best, which is put it into cruise control and try to get into the locker room with the win. But that's how I see it. I also see Mohamed Salah being our party starter in this game. I think Mohamed Salah will be the first goal for this game. Eric's going 3-2 for Liverpool. Big up, big up. I have Salah and Ekitike as my 2 goal scorers, but I have Salah as the first. Let's see. Anyone else going to give out some scores? If you don't give scores in the chat, it's no pressure, no problem. Once again, throw them into the comment section so that people can say, hey, you got this right or you got this wrong. You know, I gave shout out to Nigel yesterday. I don't know if Nigel's a part of the chat tonight, but I gave a shout out to Nigel yesterday because he was one of the few people out there that predicted a blowout the way that it ended. He predicted a 5-0 blowout, and we ended up 6-0. But I still give him a shout because not many of us had us blowing out Qarabağ that badly. But he did. He had the strength and hindsight to do so. Jimmy says 2-1. You'll never walk alone. Big up, Jimmy. Yes, yes. I'm hoping that you and I get that one right. But again, 3-1, Lone Sheep is saying. All right, 3-1. All right. Let me get into a quick fun section. We got Norm in the chat, so you guys got you've got your ringer to help you along. Quick little pop quiz for you. All right, it's just football. I'm going to ask you, who scored the winning goal in the 3-2 victory at St. James Park for us earlier this season? Who was the player who scored the goal, the game-winning goal for us? A very unlikely hero, by the way, thrown into a chaotic game, and he made the most of it. Yes, it would be Rio. That would be correct. All right. Here's a little bit of history for you. Who scored Liverpool's first ever Premier League goal against Newcastle? Who scored Liverpool's first ever Premier League goal against Newcastle? I'll wait to see if anyone knows that one. Ian Rush. All right. Were you at the game, by the way? Is that what it was? That it? Were you at the game? I'm asking this question to get an answer from, hopefully to get a correct answer, because I have a different player, but let me see. I'm waiting to see if anyone else puts in. Anyone else puts in anything? Away at St. James Park, 1994. That would be correct. You know what? I was thinking of Anfield, but I will accept that as well. I will accept that. All right. Next question. Which Liverpool player scored a last-minute winner against Newcastle at Anfield in 1996? What Liverpool player scored a last-minute winner against Newcastle at Anfield in 1996? That would be Stan the Man. Yes, Trudon and Retro. Yes. Fowler was a good shout, though. I would have guessed Fowler too. Big up, Eric. Big up. All of you guys got that one right. All right. Here's one for you. Which former Liverpool forward scored a hat trick against Newcastle in the Premier League era? Which former Liverpool forward, I'll even give you a hint, from the 90s, scored a hat trick against Newcastle in the Premier League era? All right. I told you guys got a ringer. That would be Michael Owen. Yes, that would be correct. Michael Owen. Big up, Bonkers. And big up, Norm. I see you guys both got that one. All right, here's one that's doesn't deal with a Liverpool player, but I'll ask the question. Which Newcastle player has scored the most Premier League goals against Liverpool? Which Newcastle player has scored the most Premier League goals against Liverpool? The answer might surprise you. I'll just give you that clue. The answer might surprise you, because I know some of you are going to put in a name. Yeah, I know some of you are going to put in a name, but just in the Premier, not all time. I mean, in the Premier League era. In the Premier League, yes. Premier League era. Who holds the record for the most Premier League goals scored for Newcastle United against Liverpool? Does anyone want to give a shout? Solano? No. Isak? No. The name will I say the name will surprise you, because it was, I saw Heiler put in Shearer. It is not Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer is second. I'll give you that hint. Alan Shearer is second, but he's not first. Bellamy? No, it is not. It is not. All right, one more guess, and then okay, that's not a real guess. I know Eric's just playing with us. The answer to this question is Andy Cole. Andy Cole has 6 goals against Liverpool for Newcastle United. Andy Cole. It goes Andy Cole with 6, Alan Shearer with 5. Alan Shearer with 5. All right. Which Liverpool player has been sent off the most times against Newcastle? Which Liverpool player has been sent off the most times against Newcastle? Which Liverpool player has been sent off the most times against Newcastle? All right, Jimmy, the shout. That is correct. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. He actually is more than double the exits. Newcastle United, he puts in. He does not like Newcastle United because he has 7 total dismissals against United, Newcastle United. That is. All right. Last question. Which Newcastle manager oversaw their famous 4-3 win over Liverpool in 1995-96? I think that's the last time they beat us at Anfield, by the way. But who was the coach of Newcastle when they beat us 4-3? And I'll give you extra points. All right, Trudon got it. Very well done. Very well done. I'll give you extra points if you know what the nickname, their nickname was for that team. I'll give you extra points if you know what their nickname was. Keegan. Yep. All right. I am going to the great entertainers. Yes, Trudon. Trudon is on point today. Very, very good. Very, very good. The entertainers. Yes. Yes. Well, hopefully we'll be doing the entertaining tomorrow and not Newcastle. You know what? Before I bounce out of here, because I know we're already at the 90th minute of this show, but I did have here, let me bring this down actually. I did have some other fun things that we could include in the conversation. I said that I would have some moments of Zen, and I will say this. So let me bring this forward and bring you this. I would like to say happy birthday to the man, the robot, the man, Peter Crouch. Happy birthday to Peter Crouch. Happy birthday. Fellow Aquarian in the house, big up. I'm not going to do the robot for you guys. And I would also like to say, we spoke about this player earlier, but it is Curtis Jones' birthday as well. It is Curtis Jones' birthday. Shout out to this guy, Curtis Jones. Shout out to Curtis Jones. Recognize, people. A beloved Scouser and certainly a fixture with this club. He loves his city. Loves it. These are, I also wanted to give a shout out to Ringlets himself. This was his post on Instagram. He said, "How I've missed that. Thank you for your incredible support tonight. Great win to top it off." He got to play in that Villa matchup. We hope that he can get more fixtures in. Obviously, he can't play against. We don't play Villa until I think to the very end of the season, I want to say. But I'd have to double check on that. But I will say that we hope that he gets more opportunities for the young man. He deserves them. He definitely deserves them. Villa. We don't see Villa until like the second to last game of the season, of the season. And I would also like to say, big up, to Binam, number 3, Ichiban, number 1, Binam, which is 3, and that is shout out to Wataru Endo. Shout out to Wataru Endo. He wanted to say, this was via Twitter, Champions League night. Thank you for your support. My guy, Wataru Endo, our Red Samurai, getting it in. Big up to Wataru Endo. Someone that we might have to call on for some of the stuff this year. I had a funny question for you too. I was gonna give you a little Red Zen, but I have Red Zen for you, but this could be a bit of your Red Zen. Can you name the 4 players in this picture? Can you name the 4 players in this picture? This was back when we did have Adidas as our sponsor, and the kits that are associated with this year are with that year are I do like that kit, the black and gold kit. But can you name all 4 players in this picture? Let's see if we have some keen eyes out there. Let's see. Can you name them? We will wait. I don't mind waiting a little bit. I'll bring this down actually. Yep. 3, yes. You got 3 of them. You definitely got 3 of them. Yeah, there you go. Kelly is the 4th in this. Sometimes gets overlooked, but yeah, he is the other player in on the out there. You can see Agar on your right, and obviously the current Real Madrid manager behind Mascherano. But well done. Yes, Kelly is the player in the back. I didn't know if anyone would get that one because I know he was a little bit more of a he wasn't a featured player, but he certainly is a red all the same, and appreciate him all the same as well. All right. The last bit of Red Zen I wanted to give out was this. So, they have it was a kit, an Adidas kit that represented the 100th year or the centennial year of Liverpool's existence. I was going to ask for your bit of Red Zen before I say it. Funny 12 because Agar and Skirtle had potential to be really. Oh, I thought that they had massive potential. Retro, Norm. That was one of growing up. That was one of my favorite center half pairings for this club. They unfortunately didn't amount to what they have potential to amount to, but I agree. They were tough. They were physical. They definitely had a presence. I loved them as a pairing for us. But all right, no Googling, no rewinds, no arguing with the producer in my ear, because I don't have a producer. The producer is myself, I guess. So drop your scores in the comments. Tell us who actually cooks and who needs to who actually cooks tomorrow, who actually needs to have a seat. This feature has given us drama, chaos, late winners, heartbreak, absolute madness over the years. Tomorrow, Saturday, feels like it could give us another chapter in that book. Wherever you're watching from, please make sure you're locked in to this channel by giving it a like, a subscribe, passing on that little bit to hit the notification bell and be a part of the conversation. We all back the Reds. We all back every last one of these players, hopefully. And I most notably back each one of you as fellow Reds of mine. So we're going to have a Reds roll call, I believe, tomorrow, as long as I can get the guys together. But we certainly have a post-match. Now, I did say I have a little bit of a Red Zen for you. I was going to say this kit needs to definitely be brought back. If we were to bring back something, it would be fantastic to see this kit be brought back. I thought this kit was fantastic. I like it because it represents Carlsberg. I like it because it says it's got the 100 years Liverpool Football Club, 100 years logo, or at least recognition on it. But this kit was bold. It was definitely a bad, cool, meaning bad, meaning cool. Like Michael Jackson. It was definitely but it was certainly something worthwhile. And that is, here is your Reds moment of Red Zen here. Tell me you don't feel this kit. This is a cool kit. I saw in the Liverpool, they did a promotion for big up Daz, by the way, big up Daz Reynolds. They did a support piece for, I think, the hearing impaired, and I saw Gakpo in this kit, even though he wasn't a player that year. He was still rocking the retro kit. Massively cool kit. I thought it was definitely cool to have. So again, my bit of Red Zen for you right there and there. I hope that everyone has a phenomenal TGIF. I hope to see you guys for Reds Roll Call. Certainly, as long as we can put one together, I hope we see for Reds Roll Call. I hope that we can get this win, obviously, but I hope more so that we all are going to be together for the post-match reaction. Should be pretty cool. Akpo was in Baghdad in 1993. That kid, yeah, there you go. I think that's a cool kit. I think it's a really cool kit. I think it would even be better if rather than 3 stripes, maybe even put like a huge classic Adidas logo there. Maybe I'll try to make that as a sometimes I do make kits of my own, little concept kits of my own. Maybe I'll try to put that together. But people, been a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see each and every one of you. We will be back tomorrow. Possibly have a panel tomorrow. I did just see Dara's text late, but I'm certain that if he's available, he'll join us as well tomorrow. And some big things coming up on the horizons for this channel. So I'm hoping that we can make it all happen together, because the OGs like yourself make this channel more than worthwhile to be a part of. So big up to each and every one of you. And like I said, until tomorrow, up the Reds each and every time. I hope that you guys have a fantastic day, and no blind dates. But definitely take care, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.